My parents are Ghanaian, so I was basically going to church from when I was in my mum's womb, really, and I had to go by force. And I didn't really understand Christianity. I just knew that it was something that was dear to my family, so it meant that it had to be dear to me. So I went to church from a young age, and my parents really drummed in like good morals and biblical living and all that kind of stuff. And even though I didn't really understand it, I just kind of went along with it. And I'd pray to God and stuff like that, but not really have any depth behind it till a bit later in life. And just because of that, I started to get into the wrong crowd on my estate because I grew up on a council estate, and I wasn't really like a gangster or anything. But you know, like the guy that thinks he's a gangster, but everyone can tell that he's not really. So I used to hang around with some quite naughty people, and they would always do like naughty stuff, but I'd be too scared to do it. And then after it's done, I'd be like, "Yeah, did you see me? I was there," and all that kind of stuff.
So you're
And then
kind of
they're
on the
like,
fringes of
yeah.
a bad crowd.
I was on the fringe. I was always like really cheeky, but never really naughty. So I'd get in loads of trouble at school just for silly stuff like, don't know, getting into silly fights or calling people names and that kind of stuff. And my youth leader at church found out about how I was behaving, and he said to me, he didn't really give me good youth leader advice, but he just said, look, if you want to be a gangster, then you got to be the best gangster you could be, otherwise you're wasting your time. And if you want to be a good kid, then you got to give your all to God. And like he kind of taught me about the true meaning of Christianity and what Jesus did for me and stuff. And then I made up my mind. I said, I'm too scared to be a gangster, so I'm just going to be a Christian.
I mean, that youth leader in a way was taking quite a risk by giving you that kind of
Yeah.
ultimatum, wasn't he? So he must have had some insight to your character.
Yeah, like he knew me. He known me for a few years, so he knew that if he said that to me, it was more of a scare tactic. He's saying stuff like, you can be a gangster, you can get stabbed and you could die and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want that to happen to me. Because those were the things that were happening to some of the people that I knew on the estate. So I knew that if I carried on, I could potentially get into that kind of trouble. But thankfully, I made the right decision. And I think my family had a lot to do with it as well, because we didn't really have much money. My mum had like 2 jobs and stuff, and like she'd come home and proper look after us and cook for us and then go out again to work. And I just saw how much of a struggle it was for her. So I didn't want to add to that by bringing drama to her doorstep. Do you know what I mean? So I think that was more of an incentive for me to try and get on the straight and narrow, because I knew that it would mean a lot to my parents.
I mean, you say you were too scared to follow the gangster route, but actually there's a huge amount of bravery involved in turning around to that crowd and saying, well, I'm now following Jesus.
Yeah.
How did that go when you started to tell the people that you hung around with about your new renewed faith?
I think when I was about 15, I got to the point where I'd been bullied a little bit in school before. So I was at the point where I literally had enough and I didn't care what people thought of me. So like can you see this gap in my teeth? Before I got braces, like it was massive. Like literally you could fit through the gap in my teeth. That's how big it was. And every time we would get the train to school, like the train announcer would be like, please mind the gap. And everyone would just look at my teeth and start laughing. And I got really skinny legs as well. Like my ankles are just like, I don't know, stick it up, like proper skinny, yeah? So one time I'm just walking through my estate to the bus stop, and then I just hear, oi, chicken legs. And then I just turn around and they're just laughing at my legs, calling me chicken legs, because chickens have got like proper skinny ankles. So I dealt with that for a few years, but it made me like a stronger person. So when I decided to become a Christian, I was at the stage where, do you know what, people have laughed at me literally for the last few years, and they're going to laugh at this, but I don't care, because I know it's the right thing to do for me at this stage in life, and the people that are my true friends won't mind. So I told my friends, and I think they were cool, but they were cool because they thought it was like a phase and that would snap out of it. But then a few months had gone past and it happened. So I didn't go back, and they were cool. But like literally about a month after I became a Christian, a few of my friends, about 6 of us, were playing football in the playground in school, and pouring down with rain, and out of nowhere a massive lightning bolt struck the middle of the playground, and every single one of us fell to the floor. So like, I was in a daze for about 15, 20 seconds, kind of staggered to my feet, and saw another friend over that side of the playground get up to his feet. But in the distance, I saw a good friend of mine. His name's Izzy. he's just lying face flat in the middle of the playground. So we all ran up to him, and he had like school uniform on, like a blazer, trousers, and he had holes like all over his blazer, holes all over his trousers, and he was just like pitch black. So then that's when we realised he had got struck by lightning, hit his body, and then hit the ground. So the teacher came in, tried to resuscitate him, get him breathing again. They couldn't do it, so they had to call the ambulance. Ambulance came, started like pumping his chest with a defibrillator in the playground, proper scary stuff. And they couldn't get him breathing either, so he had to go to hospital and be put on a life support machine because he couldn't breathe by himself. So just because I had become a Christian like recently, I was very like optimistic and full of faith. So I said a prayer like, God, if you're out there, like come through for my friend, help him out and stuff. And I think for my friends, they were obviously struggling with it as well because it was very, I don't know, it was just like a big shock at that time.
That sort of thing doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, exactly. So I think my faith actually helped them at that stage because no one really had a lot of faith back then. So it actually came to be used for my benefit. So I'd pray with them and
Did he pull through? You can't just leave it there. What
yeah,
happened?
Yeah. So like eventually he came back to life and started breathing again. Like it was a proper miracle. Like one of them ones where the doctors can't explain it, his family can't explain it, but it happened. And obviously for me, I knew that I chose to believe that it was Jesus that helped him through. And I think that my friends seeing me pray about it and him being okay was a testament to them as well and the God that I believe in. And obviously people will say, oh, it's just a coincidence or whatever. But I just say, look, there's been situations in my life where it's not always been a happy ending, where I've lost people that are close to me. But I just know that having faith is like a light at the end of the tunnel for me, and it makes me a stronger person. And it's better than just giving up and having your head down in the dumps.
Tune in to the Profile interview in association with Christianity Magazine every Saturday at 4 p.m. only on Premier Christian Radio, where faith comes to life.